Howdy, I'm Chris Capell from Dizzy Pig. Welcome to Dizzy Thursday Live. I'm pretty excited. We're getting ready to go out and do another competition. And if you know about Dizzy Pig, we've been competing since 2002. This will be our 135th competition. But we've kind of slowed down a little bit. We were doing 12 a year, and now we're doing 2 a year. Well, we're going to do 3 this year. We decided to do the contest this weekend. It's in Urbana, Virginia. It's called BBQ Gives Back. They have a website. If you want to look up information, just Google BBQ Gives Back. A really cool contest. They do a lot with Operation Barbecue Relief, which is a great charity organization. We're excited. It's a double contest, so a lot of these teams are going to be cooking 2 contests, one Saturday and one Sunday. We're just going to do the Sunday contest, but we're still real excited about it. And unlike back in the old days, back in the heyday when Dizzy Pig was doing 12 or 15 competitions a year, and we were winning and winning and winning, we're not doing as much anymore, so we're a little less secretive about what we're doing. We love sharing what we do with other people, and I know a lot of competitors won't and don't, and we didn't used to. But anyway, so it's our technique session today. So our technique I'm going to show you is how we trim our competition chicken. Right, so we don't cook chicken like a lot of other teams. I don't know if you've seen a lot of what the competitors are doing with their chicken, but they're trimming them down into these little pillows. They're cooking them in oil, just these perfect little pillows of chicken. The way we do it is a little more old school. We're grilling our chicken, and it looks a little more like a piece of chicken. Okay, it's not a confit cooked in oil. It's actually cooked right over the charcoal. As is with a lot of competitions, once you settle in on something that the judges are writing down scores for, good scores, and you're winning awards, you stick with it. All right, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about our competition with chicken. These are thighs right here. We're going to put thighs and wings in the box, as long as they both come out. So the thighs we use are Purdue thighs. It's just, sometimes you settle in on what works, and this has worked for us. When I'm picking them, I try to pick skin that you can almost see through. If you can see these 2 guys, I probably won't use this one here because the skin is a lot thicker. Here I can see the meat through the skin, and I think that's going to give the judge a nice bite-through piece. I don't do all that stuff with pulling all the skin off and scraping all that fat down. It takes me a little less time to prepare my chicken as well. So here's my thigh. I'm basically going to make it a little bit shorter because of the way that we build our box. I want this piece to be a little bit shorter. So this end of the bone that has a knuckle end on it, I'm going to cut that off. Making sure not to hit the skin underneath of it. All right, so I got rid of that. Now it's a little shorter. So now I got to square this up. I've got this kind of messy piece of chicken right here, and I want a nice piece of chicken for the box. So I'm going to take off. I'm taking a look at the bone because that's what the judge is going to grab, and I'm going to move over and I'm going to cut all this meat off the outside, being careful not to mess up the skin because I want all the skin I can get. And I'm just going to pull that meat off, and see how that's pulling the fat off with it? I don't have to scrape anything. And the skin remains intact with the chicken, which is I really like. And I'm not going to need all this, I know that. I'm just going to cut off that outer part right there. And my chicken's starting to shape up. Now I want the bone to be on the end of the chicken. I don't want any other meat here. So this little, as Dr. Barbecue calls it, a gonad, I'm going to take that off. I save all this stuff for a stir fry. This stuff makes a great stir fry or chicken chili. And then I'm going to square it off up here too. I got this little piece of meat that's just kind of not making it clear that there's a bone there. And that's what I want the judge to grab. It's like handles. So there's my chicken all trimmed up. Now I've got this one area on this side that kind of tapers off to something real thin. I'm going to take that outer little thin part off because that's just going to overcook anyway. Pull that off. Okay, so now I got my chicken, I got my skin, and like I really want the skin to be longer than the piece of chicken, because the last thing you want it to do is pull back when you're cooking it, and the skin is not covering your chicken anymore. So I really like the way this piece is looking. This is a contender right here. So see, I got the skin coverage on the end, the skin coverage there. Now that is a perfect piece of chicken. So like I'm lining up all the containers here. All these guys are out. I'll put that thick skin piece in the out position. So that's how we trim our chicken. I'll talk a little bit more about the other categories since I got you here and you might be curious. As you might know, these competitions are under the KCBS, the Kansas City Barbecue Society, and they are the largest sanctioning body of contest in the world, really. And so they're kind of like the PGA in golf. Okay, they make the rules and they make sure that the rules are followed. So these we're going to a KCBS sanctioned contest this weekend, and there are 4 categories in a KCBS contest. 4 main categories is chicken, pork shoulder, pork ribs, and beef brisket. Actually, would you mind getting that pork butt out of the fridge? I think I put it in the fridge there. First, I'll talk about chicken. I'm going to trim all this up. I'm going to cook 12 pieces of chicken. We cook 12 at every contest. I'm going to put 6 of those in the box. Okay, so what we're going to use on the chicken is our tsunami spin. So I'm just going to tell you what seasoning we're going to use. I'm also going to tell you that we're going to brine the chicken for about 4 hours, and we're going to soak it in buttermilk after that overnight. And then we're going to cook them. We're going to grill them for about an hour and a half over a fairly low fire. That's how we're going to cook our chicken. Pork butt. See, I picked this guy out yesterday. It's 9.5 pounds, and it's got great marbling in it. See all this fat? That means that pig wasn't skipping any breakfast. Looks really good over here. I'm super excited about this piece of pork here. Well, what we're going to use on this is our Raging River, which is a seasoning I designed for salmon, but that's going to be our competition rub for our pork. Okay, we're going to cook 2 pork butts, and we're going to cook them at about 240 degrees. They're going to go on about 11 o'clock at night. Around 7 o'clock in the morning, after about the 8-hour mark, it's going to have a nice bark on it. It's going to be about 165, hopefully, if everything goes well during the night. I'm going to wrap it in foil, and we're going to cook it until it's tender, and it's going to rest for 2 or 3 hours. We're going to pull that and put it in the box. With our pork ribs, you got a question?
Yeah, Ben Hill wants to know if you're using any wood or you're doing straight hot.
Oh, hey Ben, thanks for asking. We do use wood on all our competition foods. On our chicken, we're going to use sassafras. On our ribs, I'm going to use apple. On our pork shoulder, I'm going to go with the Virginia Classic, is hickory. And on our brisket, I'm going to use oak. So those are the 4 woods. And yeah, I use about 2 small pieces of sassafras on my chicken, and I use about 2 small pieces of apple on my ribs. I use about 4 big chunks of hickory on my pork butt, and I use about 3 large chunks of oak on my brisket. So that's kind of what we do with our wood. But the main thing is, and I talked about this in a live episode a couple weeks ago, you got to make sure your smoke's good and clean. So yeah, with our pork ribs, I'm going to use a combination of our Raging River and our Dizzy Dust. And so these are the same 4 seasonings that have won us all the awards. All 15 of our grand championships were won with these 4 flavors of seasoning. So we're gonna season the ribs with the Raging River. I'm gonna cook them until they got a nice. I have a finishing rub I make with Dizzy Dust, a little bit of salt, and a couple different kinds of really earthy, fruity chilies. And we're gonna wrap those in foil and finish them off. What else we got?
Josh wants to know if you use water in your drip pans for any of your cooks.
Oh, Josh wants to know if I use water in the drip pan. I'm not really a water cooker. Actually, I will tell you one little thing that we do is I start my brisket with some water in a drip pan. Just because we've been doing it that way for a while, because we think it might promote the smoke ring a little bit. Once that water is evaporated, I don't add any more, and we don't use water for any of our other categories. So, hope that answers your question, Josh. If you have any more, just shout. Autumn is right here listening. So yeah, that's what we do with our ribs. Actually, I don't know if I added when we wrap them in foil, we use a honey, our finishing seasoning, and a couple pats of butter. Not a lot of butter, because we have got comments before from the judges that it was too buttery, and I know a lot of people are using a lot of parquet and a lot of butter in their wrap.
Two people are asking why buttermilk after brine. What's the benefit of
Why buttermilk? Well, like I said, like a lot of these things have just happened because we tried them one time and we got really high scores. But I think that buttermilk is one of the true tenderizers that actually like tenderizes the food it contacts. Unfortunately, a marinade or something that you soak it in is not going to tenderize your meat all the way through. But we think tenderizes the skin a little bit. It also has a nice tang to it. If you ever tried like buttermilk, it's pretty tangy, and we like that tang with our chicken because our chicken is on the bright side flavor-wise. So that's why we use the buttermilk. For our brisket, we're going to use our classic cowlick, which is a Texas-style beef rub, lots of black pepper. Has won us a ton of awards on our brisket. I wish I brought the brisket in because I found a beauty. Our Costco nearby is selling prime whole briskets, and I found a 21-pounder that the cow was not skipping any breakfast. The marbling was beautiful in that thing. I'm so excited about it. We're going to do an injection, and actually I can talk about the injections a little bit because that's what I've been doing the last couple of days preparing for this. I've been making a pork stock and a beef stock because I've gone away from all other liquids when it comes to injecting the pork and the brisket. I like to make a homemade pork stock, homemade like beef stock, because I want just pure beef flavor, or pure pork flavor to be injected into those. So I roasted the bones with some onions on the egg. Actually, we're doing our whole competition on Big Green Egg. I don't know if I think I neglected to mention that, but we're going to bring a half dozen eggs with us out there, and so we'll be cooking the whole contest on Big Green Eggs. So like I roasted the bones and the onions at about 400 degrees with a little bit of smoke, just a real light, clean smoke. And then I dumped all that stuff in a big pot, filled it up with water, and cooked it overnight until it gave up all the collagen and all the bones. And that's going to be like the base for my injections for my brisket and my pork. Once again, we're real excited. I've been bouncing around trying to get ready for this thing. A lot actually like goes into preparing for one of these competitions. We haven't done one for 7 months, and stuff gets pulled out of my trailer, so it's been quite an adventure getting ready. If any of you are down near Urbana, Virginia, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere over there in oyster country, but it's a beautiful venue that they have. I've heard great things about the contest, so I hope to see some of you all there this weekend. I guess that's it here from Dizzy Thursday Live. We'll catch you all next Thursday. Remember, if you ain't looking, you ain't cooking.